tsvakanyi vose vakarasika nekuvaunza kuna Jesu kutungamira kuiyo nzira yekuponeswa naye Jesu. Yendai kure kumakomoyo unzai vafambe kumusha penzandanga ramuponesi Jesu nyenye yabaiwa ndizvo tinoda nokuti Jesu watidaidza kumtevera kuvabatsira vakarasika nekuna Jesu kuvaunza. Yendai kure kumakomoyo unzai vafambe kumusha pinzandanga ramuponesi Jesu nyenye yabaiwa tsvakanyi vose vari murima nekuvaunza mukupenya kuti vaone nzira yaJesu yekuzopinda nayo kumusha. Yendai kure kumakomoyo unzai vafambe kumusha pinzandanga ramuponesi Jesu nyenye yabaiwa Take our seats. Sermon. I know Brother Angurima is in the habit of signaling when you are taken long, but today I'm going to ignore you. I'm going to take as long as this sermon warrants. Today, Sunday, the 17th of November, 2019, we welcome you all into the house of the Lord, where we are gathered to hear from His word. Our sermon today is going to come from the book of Genesis, chapter 32. The book of Genesis, chapter number 32. Genesis chapter 33. My Bible is some pages missing because my son is in the habit of plucking out the pages. So I'm trying to verify if I have it. Yes. It looks like I have it. The previous week we had Brother Makarichi talking about the subject of forgiveness. And I understand that this is the theme that we are running through this quarter. Forgiveness. And today, the title of my sermon is Forgiving and Forgetting. Forgiving and Forgetting. This is one of the most important themes or topics that are quite interesting in our lives as Christians. More often than not, we hear people say, I have forgiven them, but I cannot forget. So as a result, it is very important today. We want to look at what is it that is called forgiving and forgetting. We are going to be learning from the story of Esau and Jacob, who were brothers, sons of Isaac. And from this scripture, we're going to see an encounter in which the two brethren had to forgive each other. The book of Genesis, chapter number 33, it's relatively long, but it's very important that we all go through it so that we are in the perspective of the today's sermon. Genesis chapter 33, verse 1 to 20. Now Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and there Esau was coming, and with him were 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maidservants. And he put the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and their children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. So you can see that he was sacrificing those who were not very close to him. He put the maidservants first, the second wife, the first wife at the last. Then he crossed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. But Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children, and he said, "Who are these with you?" So he said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the maidservants came near, they and their children, and bowed down. Verse number 8. Then Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I met?" And he said, "These are to find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." And Jacob said, "No, please, if I have now found favor in your sight, then receive my present from my hand, inasmuch as I have seen your face as though I have seen the face of God. And you were pleased with me." Verse 11. "Please take my blessings that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." So he urged him, and he took it. Then Esau said, "Let us take our journey. Let us go, and I will go before you." But Jacob said to him, my Lord knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are with me. And if the men should drive them hard one day, all the flock will die. Please let my Lord go on ahead before his servants. I will lead on slowly at a pace which the livestock and go before me, and the children are able to endure until I come to my Lord in Seir." And Esau said, "Now let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. Then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city. And he bought the parcel of land where he had pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected an altar there, and he called El Elohi Israel. So this is a passage in which we are told of the encounter between Esau and Jacob, his brother. The background to this story starts in chapter 27. We are not going to read it because of time. Chapter 27, we read that Isaac, the father, was at a time when he was felt that he was about to die. And he decided to give some blessings to his children. And then he advised his wife that this is what he was going to do. And obviously the blessings were supposed to go to Esau because he was the firstborn. And we read that Rebekah, who was the mother of these two boys, then schemed, hedged a plot in which he tricked Isaac, resulting in Jacob getting the blessings instead of Esau. We just summarize. We're not going to go into detail because of time. And we are then told that it was when Esau had come and was expecting to get the blessings. He had come, prepared his meal. He is then told that your brother has already served me with the meal that I expected, and the blessings I have already given to him. So I can only give you what is remaining, which were some of the few blessings that he eventually got. So as a result of this incident, we read that Esau was so angry that he actually plotted in his heart that he was going to kill his brother Jacob. We then read that at this point, Rebekah then advised Jacob to flee to the land of Haran, where she came from, to her own brother, who was called Laban, to stay there until Esau's anger is gone down. So this is now an incident in which now Jacob had decided that he was not going to continue living in exile. He had to go back to his brother. He had to go back and reconcile with his brother. His brother was quite very angry. So today we're just going to start by defining forgiving and forgetting. We want to understand what is to forgive and to forget briefly, and then we go into the steps through which we can take in order to be able to forgive and to forget. As I alluded to before, you find that as brethren, it's one of the subjects that we struggle with most of the time in our Christian lives, in that when we have been wronged, it is quite very difficult for us to be able to forget, despite having expressed with our mouths that we have forgiven the brethren, we have forgiven our adversaries. I've consulted a dictionary to just find what is it that is called forgiving and what is forgetting. The dictionary that I consulted is an English dictionary. It reads, forgive: to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, a flaw, or a mistake. To stop feeling an angry or resentful feeling towards someone for an offense, flaw, or a mistake. Number 2, to no longer feel angry about or wish to punish an offense, a flaw, or a mistake. Then to forgive, to fail to remember, deliberately cease to think of. So as I was trying to reconcile the two meanings, I struggled to understand the issue of forgetting. Is it possible that one can actually forget that someone wronged them? In the sense of erasing it from a memory that you cannot even remember it. I found that it is not possible for you to totally remember about an incident in which you're wronged. But the context through which you should understand the aspect of forgiving and forgetting is that when you forgive and forget, you should go to the stage where you can no longer hold your brother, you can no longer hold your sister, you can no longer hold your adversary, that incident to his account. In other words, whenever you are going to relate with the brother or the sister or your adversary in future, that incident in which you were wronged should not continue to determine the relationship going forward. That is the context of forgetting that we want to look at. Not necessarily forgetting it by erasing it from your memory, because that is quite very difficult. For as long as you are a human being, you are bound to be remembering all things that happened in the past. So going back to the scriptures, we find that this is one of the things that Esau was able to do. He was able to forgive and forget the incident when his brother had tricked him. If we read in the preceding chapters, chapter 27, we find that Esau had vowed to himself that he was going to revenge, he was going to kill his brother. And in this encounter that he had with his brother was expecting exactly that. He was expecting there was going to be a fight. He was expecting that there was going to be a war. Such that he is not very comfortable. You can see that he then arranges his entourage into 3 departments. He put those who were not very close to him at the front. He was being very cautious. In the event that those are killed, then he will be left with at least something. We then read that even after his brother had forgiven him, he was still very suspicious. His brother then invites him, let us come along to go to stay together. But we see that he's very suspicious. He gives a lot of excuses. He then says, oh, these animals are quite tired. You can see that these are nesting animals. They might die along the way. They've traveled for a long. And then he actually says, okay, in that event, I will then leave you with one of my men to take you along the way. Still, we find that Jacob is still very suspicious. He does not agree until Esau eventually gives up. We then find confirmation later in the following chapter 35, that indeed Esau had forgiven his brother. He had vowed that I'm going to kill my brother at the funeral of my father. If you read in chapter 27, he had planned that he was going to kill him at the funeral of his father. Chapter 27, verse 41. We're not going to read it. But we then read in the later chapter 25, that when Isaac breathed his last and died, both Esau and Jacob went and were able to bury their father. There's no incident of fight that we hear in this passage. Chapter 35, verse 29. We're not going to read, but you can take note and read during your spare time. So this is a classic example of forgiving and forgetting, in which Esau did not hold the incident on the account of his brother. We do not hear of any incident that Esau mentions this incident when his brother took away his blessings. Now we just want to look at the magnitude of the offense that Jacob had committed against his brother. In biblical times, when a father was about to die or during his lifetime, he would gather his sons, and then he would lay his hands on them, and then he would give them their blessings. And this was particularly so important with those men who were men of God, like Abraham, like Isaac, and the later patriarchs who then followed. They would then bless their children, their sons, and give them the blessings. And these blessings would then define the type of life that these children are going to live after their father would have left them. And in this incident, we are told that because of the trick that Jacob did to his brother, he was able to get away with all the blessings of the firstborn. And you will remember that there was an incident in which Esau had sold his birthright to Jacob. Probably that is in relation to this incident. This is the reason why he is now being punished now by God, such that he ended up forfeiting his blessings. So the blessings were actually sort of like a status or an honor that would then be given. If we read in the preceding chapter, we find that the type of blessings that Jacob got were blessings that were going to bring prosperity to his future generations. His father says, your descendants are going to be many, and whoever blesses you is going to be blessed, and whoever curses you is also going to be cursed. And I'm sure most of you agree with me that these are the blessings that we then see even as we read in the later part of the scriptures, that the Israelites continued to prosper. These were the children of Jacob. They continued to prosper as a result of these blessings. And even nowadays, some scholars also continue to believe that the Israelites are still blessed as a result of this incident. they give reference to the fact that some of the richest men in the world are actually Jews. If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, most of you know him, isn't it? He's one of the richest men in the world. He's quite around my age, although I'm not as rich as him, isn't it? He's quite one of the richest men in the world. He owns Facebook, and he managed also to acquire WhatsApp. So he's now the owner of Facebook and WhatsApp. He's one of the richest men. He's a Jew. We also told that Bill Gates has some Jewish parentage in him. Here in Zimbabwe, we are also told that Sam Levy was also a Jew, isn't it? So you find that it is a result of this that most people ascribe the prosperity to the Jews. Wherever they go, you hear that they are quite one of the most prosperous people in the country or in the community that they live. In the 1930s in Germany, you find that the then leader of Germany, Hitler, discovered this and began to purge the Jews and to kill them. What is then known as the Holocaust. His belief was that the Jews were prospering at the expense of the German nationals. Wherever they go, everything that they touch, it turns into gold. So they owned the retail shops, they owned the businesses, manufacturing, and most of them, they owned influential positions in business and in commerce. And all this is ascribed to this incident when Isaac blessed Jacob, who is the father of the Israelites. So this is the magnitude of these blessings. So this was the thing that was at stake at this moment. Esau lost a lot as a result of this incident. So giving it as an example, I think closer to home. Brother Dos Santos, the other time I remember Brother Dos Santos was complaining that he manufactures shoes, very nice shoes. I was able to see some of them, very beautiful shoes. He was complaining that, men in this church, if you look at them, they are wearing different types of shoes, but none of them is wearing my brand of shoes that I manufacture. So imagine, Brother Dos Santos, you've won a contract to supply the government with shoes, all MPs and senators, cabinet ministers, you are going to supply them with shoes. And when the chairman of the State Procurement Board is about to read that Brother Dos Santos, you've won this contract, you are going to supply shoes to all government departments, we are going to dress all officials in cabinet for the next 10 years. And then someone just changes the papers before they are read. And then someone who is number 2 is then ready to have won the 10. How would you feel about it? So this is the kind of thing that happened in this incident. It was actually a coup. Esau was not supposed to be getting these blessings, but he ended up taking them through the scheming of his mother Rebecca. But we want to find out from the incident that we've just read how the brothers were able to forgive each other, and how Esau was able to forgive and forget. And I came up with 4 steps that are very critical in the process of forgiving and forgetting. The first step is that for you to be able to forgive and forget, one of you, between you and the one who is your adversary, or between you and your sister, between you and your brother, there's need to have an encounter with God. It is very important that you must have an encounter with God. Genesis chapter 32, if we go through it, we are not going to read it. Genesis chapter 32, we read that Jacob was in the wood. We prayed that he had wronged his brother, and he was scared that his brother was going to kill him. He's talking to God. And it is after he had finished praying that we read that he had an encounter with an angel of God whom he wrestled with until he got injured part of his hip. And you find that as we go into this encounter that he met his brother, it was quite very easier for him to be able to get the mercy of his brother, having asked from God and having prayed from God. How many times have we wronged one another that we decide to go to the Lord to pray and to ask God to be able to help us to forgive one another? Most of the time when we are wronged by brethren in the church, some of us, we stop coming to church. You don't want to associate with the people that you feel that they have wronged you. if I take an issue with Brother Nyatanga, I discover that Brother Nyatanga is the one who is song leading, I won't come to church. I don't want to see Brother Nyatanga, eh? So this is what most of the time that we do as human nature. But the scriptures are telling us that we must have an encounter with God. It's very important that we submit ourselves to God and that we pray to God that He will help us go through the reconciliation process. So the first step is that there's need to have an encounter with God. Without praying to God, either ourselves we have been wronged, or the one who has wronged the other. It is very impossible, almost very difficult. This is the first stage that opens the way to forgiveness. Because forgiveness comes from God. It is God Himself who is the author of forgiveness. We read in the New Testament and in the Old Testament prophets that He forgave us to the extent that He was willing to give His Son to die on the cross for our sins, to wash away our sins. So it is quite very, very noble that we take the first step to forgiveness by praying to God and asking for His intervention, for His wisdom. Step number 2. Go and talk face to face with your adversary, your brother or your sister. Go and talk face to face. I can see most of you, you've closed your eyes. You're trying to imagine. How are you going to encounter that brother or that sister or that adversary of yours in a face-to-face engagement? Matthew chapter 18, verse number 15. Matthew chapter 18, verse number 15. We are not going to read. Jesus speaking to, on one occasion, says, if your brother wrongs you, go to your brother in private, rebuke him. And if he listens to you, you have won over your brother. In the scripture that we have read, we hear that Esau, when he saw Jacob approaching, although Jacob had sent some messengers before that to advise his brother that he was on his way, he did not wait to also do the same, to send messengers with the response. He is prepared to come on his own. He is the one who takes the initiative to go to run to meet his brother. Jacob was expecting a fight. We read that Esau had 400 men at his disposal. And Jacob was expecting more, but Esau runs, does the opposite, runs to his brother. He meets him and he embraces him. Brothers and sisters, it is very important that whenever we are wronged or when we wrong each other, the process of forgiveness requires that we get into a one-on-one engagement. We must be prepared, we must be ready to meet the brethren when we feel that we need to settle matters. How many times have we been approached by someone asking for forgiveness and we send our gardeners, say, go and talk to them. I'm not going to come there. Go and talk to them. I'll talk to them later. And someone has come to your house, they want to ask for forgiveness. They want to talk to you, but you actually turn them away. The scriptures are telling us today that it is important that we are prepared to engage with the brethren on a one-on-one basis. Those who are familiar with mathematics, what is the shortest distance between 2 points? A straight line, isn't it? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So why do you go round all the way in order to meet your brother to ask for forgiveness when you can easily approach the brother and talk to your brother? Approaching your adversary directly is the shortest route to forgiveness. It is the shortest route to forgiveness. Of course, there are some dangers associated with that, isn't it? That's why you see that Jacob was very cautious. He prepared very well. He was strategic enough to arrange his group into 3, So in as much as you are supposed to take some measure of, because you never know, someone can set dogs on you when you go there to their house. So it's very important to also be cautious. But the bottom line is that you cannot avoid a one-on-one engagement. If you are going to be cautious to the extent of checking whether there are dogs, to checking whether the brother is armed, it's something else. But it's very important that you meet. You cannot avoid a one-on-one engagement. Esau goes to see his brother Jacob. He falls on his brother's neck. He kissed him. In so doing, he was able to go the process of healing. When you meet your brother in their house, you meet your adversary in their house, you discover that you can easily iron out everything. Most of the time, the reason why it's very difficult to forgive and forget is that there are some assumptions sometimes. There's misinformation. There's a lot of information that is taken in the wrong way, and the opportunity to meet one-on-one, it gives you a chance to bury the hatchet. It gives you a chance to settle issues, to discuss things off. Although the scriptures do not of course give us an account, but it is possible that when Jacob and Esau were hugging each other, they could have said some words to each other. They said, "I'm sorry, my brother, you forgive me," and so forth. So this was an opportunity for them, the one-on-one encounter is an opportunity for them to come face to face. It's also a chance for you to empty out your heart. You know, when you are wronged, I mean, it's very important to let the person know that you really wronged me, isn't it? So the one-on-one encounter also enables you to pour out your heart. Step number 3, expose your heart and take your time. Expose your heart and take your time. There's a research that has been done by a certain university in the United States which found that the reason why most people find it difficult to forgive each other is that they want to rush through the process of forgiveness. Someone wrongs you and you immediately say, no, it's okay. You don't take your time to really digest. You don't take your time to go through the motions of emptying out your heart, of getting assurance, of talking to each other and so forth. And as a result, sometimes it becomes very difficult for you to forget. You have forgiven someone, but that incident always comes back to your mind. You continue to feel the pain in your heart that someone has wronged you. And from the incident, we hear that Esau ran to meet Jacob. He hugged him and threw his arms around him, kissing him. The brothers embraced each other, feeling each other's heartbeats. When they were hugging each other, they were able to feel each other's heartbeats. Esau was able to see that this guy is actually too scared than me. From the way his heart was beating. And Jacob would have also found that, I was very cautious for nothing. This guy is actually afraid of me more than I. From the moment that they hugged each other, isn't it? So this is an opportunity for you to expose your heart. When you meet one-on-one, you embrace each other. Symbolically, you might not be able to hug each other physically, but symbolically, the meeting enables you to expose your heart to one another. You are able to tell one another how you feel about this thing that happened between you. You are also able to expose your the role that you played in making things there. In the dispute that ensued, you are able to tell your brother that, no, this is why I did it, so it was a mistake, and so forth and so forth. So true forgiveness and forgetting is very difficult when the heart is not exposed. Esau was able to open up his arms. When he opened up his arms, he exposed his heart. And as a result, he was able to forget about the wrong that his brother had done to him. How willing are you to expose your heart to your adversary today, to your brother and your sister? To tell your brother what you really felt about that incident, which you continue to hold into your heart today. We find that in most relationships, this is the stage that we skip, probably because we are afraid of we're afraid of the unknown. We don't want to really go through discussing the incident. Talk about it. Expose your heart. Tell your friend, tell your brother how you feel about it. In marriages, although I'm not an expert, I'm just a few years in marriage, but I can tell you that most of the time when you don't discuss things, you find that when the incident happens, when you encounter the same challenge again, it becomes very difficult the next time to get forgiveness. And someone still feels that maybe you did it deliberately or because you wanted to cause pain to me. So if you don't discuss things over, don't open up your heart, you must also be able to allow the other person to open up to you. Don't say, no, I just want forgiveness. Hey, you just continue to talk about it. Give them time to go through the healing process. Talk about it. Ask them to say what they feel about you. And that will assist you. By so doing, you're assisting the brother, the sister to come to their destination, to be able to forgive. Not only to forgive, but to forget about this incident. Step number 4, the last step. We're about to finish. Those who were scared that I was going to take 2 hours. Step number 4, accept restitution or compensation when it is offered to you. Accept restitution or compensation when it is offered to you. Do you understand what is restitution? Restitution is when you are restoring. In the courts, when you violate someone's rights or you damage their reputation, the court then orders what are called damages, isn't it? To settle the matter, to level the matter. Someone has been hurt or their reputation has been damaged. So you have to pay some money in order to heal the other person. So it's very important for you to accept the restitution when it is offered. In this passage that we've read, we read that Esau, when you meet the father or the sister, forgive you. It could be one of the reasons why Esau was able to forgive and forget his brother. That when they met at Isaac's funeral, there was no fight. Despite the fact that Esau had vowed that I'm going to assassinate him on the date of the burial of my father. So Jacob came up with a lot of, quite a number of things, quite a great deal of wealth to compensate his brother. Okay, let us just go through them. Number 1, 200 female goats and minus those that I didn't evaluate, $180,000. These are the gifts that he gave to his brother. So just imagine $180,000. It's enough to buy a house in one of the leafy suburbs, medium density suburbs. So this was quite an enormous kind of gift. Esau was able to accept it, for him to be able to be prepared to forgive his brother. So when your brother or your sister comes to you and you have really been wronged, you feel that you've really been wronged, even if you feel you do not need these things, just like what Esau felt, sometimes it helps you to go through the healing to accept some of these gifts that one is giving to you as compensation. Those who are in marriage, you know the trick, isn't it? If you hate your wife, you just you find your way to the supermarket to buy some flowers and some chocolates. It helps sometimes, but there are certain times when it becomes very difficult. You actually have to go back and look for something more expensive in order to be able to get some forgiveness. So Jacob acknowledged his wrongs by compensating his brother Esau. The process of forgiveness, brothers and sisters, to help one another to forgive and forget. When restitution has been offered to you, sometimes it is very important for you to accept. When you have wronged someone, sometimes it is also very important for you to look at ways in which you can compensate. To conclude the sermon for the day, true forgiveness is forgiving and forgetting. One must really feel that you have really forgiven them. when you forgive someone, they should not be left with any doubt that they've really been forgiven. In the scripture that we are reading, after embracing his brother, after finishing all that they did, Jacob tells something that is very striking to his brother. He says, I have seen God in your face. I have seen God in your face through which that you have done to me today. If your forgiveness does not cause your brother to see the face of God in you, you should ask yourself whether you have truly forgiven and you have truly forgotten about the incident. May the Lord help us this morning, brothers and sisters, that we embrace true forgiveness, that we really embrace the concept of forgiving and forgetting one another, and that we are able to also go through the steps of forgiving so that we are able to forget the wrongs that would have been done to us. May the Lord help us this morning to forgive and to forget. May the Lord bless the reading of his word. Amen.